Hello, everybody. My name is Johnny Crypto with a K. One of the biggest questions I get asked all the time is, Johnny, how do I determine exit targets for my portfolio? So I want to take some time today and walk you through how to do that. So we'll start off with first talking about what is an exit plan and what isn't an exit plan. We'll talk a little bit about the markets and how they work. Then we'll walk you through a tool to use to create exit targets. This is called the Fibonacci tool. And then from there, we'll show you how you can take those exit targets and either put them into a spreadsheet or, if you want, Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto tool, which will then track what's happening and give you exit alerts. So with that said, let's hop into it. So, first thing we want to talk about is what is an exit plan and what isn't an exit plan. And it really starts with understanding how the markets work. And the way the markets typically work is we have these two phases. We have a speculation phase and a utility phase. And in the speculation phase, we see here, you see this yellow line that represents the price of something. Um, but that's happening while we look at the blue line before the technology is ever even developed. We're still in the blue line represents as we're moving from the idea all the way to when it actually happens. And we see this adoption gap here where there's a time period that could be anywhere from 3 years to 14 years. It can be a very long time. And as we move from speculation to utility, we see that the price goes up in the beginning and down, and then kind of recovers and goes back up in the end when the S curve and the real utility happens. So there's two phases there. And why is this important? Well, when you think of an exit plan, it's so important to know how the price action is going to behave. And if you know the price action is going to behave like we see here in the yellow curve, where it's going to go up and it's going to go down, we want to make sure we're creating a plan that can capitalize on the way up so we don't end up holding everything on the way down. So, an exit plan really is just a strategy of saying, hey, I'm going to take some portion of what I own and I'm going to plot some exit targets along the way on the upside. And I'm also going to hold some for the long run in case on the downside, in case, for example, if the price continues to go up over time. Perfect example of that was, I'll give you my example in 1997 when I bought Amazon. I bought it, and unfortunately, I sold it all. I didn't hold on to any of it. In retrospect, had I held on to 20 or 30% of it, I'd be in a much, much different wealth position than I am today, right? So my exit plan was to sell everything 100%. And so the way to think about having an exit plan is you don't necessarily want to sell 100% of everything. You want to sell some portion of it, maybe 60, 70%. That's up to each individual, and hold 20 or 30% for the future. And like I said, had I held 20 or 30% of my Amazon shares, it'd be a very different lifestyle I'd be living today. So we want to take those lessons learned and properly execute those. And when we take a look at these real life, let's take a look at a real life example of this curve in action. This is actually the Amazon curve, which started in 1997. And you'll see here in 2000, this was the speculative state. It really wasn't in full blown utility at the time, it was operating primarily as a bookstore. And then you can see the utility phase as it continued to build and build. And then you get at the end this entire utility adoption phase, 10 to 15, 20 years later. And we know that Amazon has gone as high as $3,300. So important that in this phase here, the beginning, what we call the speculative state, based on the curve I just showed you earlier, the yellow bar, this went from $1 to $125, which means there was a lot of potential to be able to capitalize on that. And if you had an exit plan and you sold on the way up, you could have capitalized on it. And then when it came back down, you could have rebought in or many different types of investments. So again, just looking at this in practicality, this is exactly how the market and the adoption to utility curve operates. Now, let's take a zoom in more closer look at what happens in this, what we call the speculation state. Now, Wall Street has spent millions of dollars on this chart. There's a Wall Street cheat sheet out there that looks just like this. And the reason why they did that is because they want to understand your brain and my brain. So important for them to understand it. Because what's the market? The market is just a pot, it's a big pool of money. All the money's in it, and smart people get to take the money out. And what they call dumb money usually tends to leave the money in and loses their money. So, by understanding how the game is played, the financial institutions know exactly how we're going to react and behave based on price action. And then they're going to make buy and sell decisions based on that. So, let's take a look at this curve in more detail. This black line here represents the price chart. And along the way, they've pulled many, many, many people to understand how humans behave and react when the price is moving up. And you can see as we move up, we move from a disbelief phase to a hope phase to an optimism phase where people start to believe, oh my God, this is real. The surge is real. Now, why is that important? Because look at the next phase, 4. Now you're going all in. People are like, oh my God, I guessed right. This thing's going up. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I'm going to start putting money in, right? I'm going all in. And then as it continues to go up, you get into this thrill phase. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy. I just can't lose. So then you mortgage the house, you do everything you can, you put even more money in, you borrow everything you can. And now when you get to this euphoria state at the top, this is where you think, I'm a genius. I knew it. I'm going to go buy a Lambo. And what happens is in this phase, people tend to typically use leverage. They go out and they borrow money they don't have, or they borrow from the exchanges and they put more money in that they don't have. And that drives the price up even higher. But the problem here is the smart money has tools where they can see how much leverage is put into the market. They can see when the leverage is all like fully utilized, and they know that when it's fully utilized, there's no way for the price to keep going up anymore. If nobody has any more money to put in, well, it's a simple supply and demand equation, right? Money can't, no more money come in, price stops going up, and we start to come crashes. So the elites, the smart money, they sell at the top, and then you'll see this pullback. This is the first indication that they're getting out. But you'll notice on this chart, you also see one of those here. You see one of those here. So the commoner doesn't know any better when these pullbacks are going to be the final one, right? So when you see the pullback, we get this bounce up into complacency. That's what's called a dead cat bounce. And then ultimately the entire drop that leads to anxiety, depression, denial as we continue to go down. And the game is over. All the smart money is out. And now all the public is losing their money. Now, let me show you what, taking this example and showing you how the money flow happens here. Look at this. So when you look, the smart money gets in very, very early on when nobody hears about anything. The smart money then tells their institutional buddies, and then they get in. All right. They're all in this early phase, okay, and this pullback. Now, look when the public gets in. The public starts to get in once the optimism, the belief, the thrill is going on. Now, you notice because the smart money's in, they're going to start to dump and take profits as the public is putting their profits in. What we want to do is create an exit strategy that does exactly what the smart money is doing. We want to sell in this phase. So as the public is coming in and buying it, we don't want to be a part of that public to continue to always buy and never take advantage on the way up. And that's what we're going to talk about is how do we create an exit strategy that's going to capitalize as things are moving up so that we don't end up on the backside here coming back down. Now, remember, you're never going to catch the top and you're never going to catch the bottom. If you can catch 80% of the top and 20% buying at the bottom, you're doing really good. So just keep that as a rule of thumb. Don't feel bad if you don't catch the top. Most people never do. And we're not expecting that to happen. So we're going to use the Fibonacci tool. And we're going to take this tool, and this tool is going to help us create ways to look at charts to be able to see what are some potential entry and exit targets. So I'm going to read to you here from the AI system what a Fibonacci tool is here. So as you can see here, Fibonacci retracement tool utilizes a sequence or a series of mathematically related numbers to identify potential support and resistance levels within a trending market. Key point, you select two price targets, what typically we call a swing high to a swing low that represents a directional move. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. It then automatically overlays the Fibonacci grid, and it shows you specific key targets, Fibonacci ratios, the 23.6, the 38, the 50%, the 61.8, the golden rule one, remember that one, and so on and so forth. And then with that, you can use these to analyze price targets interacts and to be able to see how the retracement levels work. And what you typically see is these price targets often stall or tend to be reverse levels or creating levels to move back up again. And those could be good points for entry in trade levels. So we're going to leverage this tool to do that. I'm going to show you how to do that now. So the first thing you're going to want to do, and I use, is go over to tradingview.com. This is a free website. You can go there and create an account. Come here, click get started, and get your account going. So I'm going to log in, and then I'll show you how to use this tool. Okay, now that we're logged in, you can see here, you can enter in any crypto you like or any coin or any stock for that matter as well that you want to track. So in this case, we're going to use XLM as an example. So we're going to type in XLM, the coin that we want to create an exit target for. And we're going to scroll down. We're going to look for, I like to use the one, we're going to look for XLM USDT pair. And I like to use the one on Binance. So I click this here. And now you see it's going to load the chart. Okay, and I'm going to just zoom out and we can see the whole entire chart here. Now, what we want to do is we want to be able to understand what the price action might look like in the future based on a prior high and low. So in this case, what I'm going to do, for example, demo purposes, rather than focus on this latest chart movement, which we would do if we were planning the future, I'm going to use this prior one back here just to demonstrate for you how it would project what the future would look like. So let's just pretend for now that this hasn't happened yet, and we're just going to focus on this part of the chart. Okay, so let's focus on that. And what you're going to see here as we focus on this, we're going to come in and we're going to apply the Fibonacci tool. So the first thing you want to do is come up here to Fibonacci retracement, and we click this. Okay, and we click, make sure Fib retracement is highlighted. Then what we're going to do, we're going to take our mouse and we're going to look for the highest point. Some people like to do it on the actual candle. Some use the actual wick. In this example, we can use the wicks. So we're going to click and we're going to hold swing high and we're going to go all the way down to the swing low. We see the lowest point is right here, this wick here. And then we can just stretch to the right without making sure we can keep that bottom lined up perfectly. And that is going to allow us now to apply our Fibonacci targets. Okay. So now we've just plotted our first row of Fibonacci's. Now remember, there's certain levels we really care about that are significant. One of the biggest ones is the 0.618 level. And so we like to look at the 0.618. Can also use the 702 is one of the favorites of some of the other influencers out there. You can always add that if you'd like. We're also going to look at the 1.68, and we also want to look at a couple of these other levels, the 2.68 and the 3.68. Okay, so when you look at the Fibonacci tool, and I'm going to zoom back in here, you're going to see here that at each one of these levels that we just mentioned, we're seeing a price associated with it. So at the 0.618, we're seeing 22 cents. At the 1.618, we're seeing 54 cents. At the 2.618, we're seeing 85 cents. At the 3.618, we're seeing 1.1. And at the 4, we're seeing $1.37. What we want to do is we want to take note of those levels and capture them and write those down in the spreadsheet. So you'll see here I've created a spreadsheet. And I've got here my XLM exit plan. I've listed the Fibonacci levels that I told you about, the 0.618 all the way down to the 4.26. So we've listed these targets. And we've listed now the price point for each one of those targets, okay? So that's how we determine the actual price point. Then it's up to you to decide from an exit strategy perspective how much of your coins you want to hold and how much of your coins you want to sell. So let's say in this example, we're going to say here, we'll put a hold and a sell. We're going to hold, let's say, 30% of our coins, and then sell, we're going to sell 70% of our coins. All right. Now, of those 70%, we want to make sure that we are breaking that up into, we want to sell 100% of that 70%. So you could see the plan I've chosen. In my plan, I'm selling 10% of the 70% of the coins that I have at 22 cents. Then I'm going to sell 30% more at 54 cents. I'm going to sell 20% more, 85, so on and so forth. I think you get the point. Now, remember, when you pick your targets, if you purchased XLM above 22 cents, then you would ignore this first point. You don't want to ever sell below your purchase price. So if you purchased, let's say, XLM at 10 cents, then selling at 22 cents would make sense. But if you purchased it, let's say, at 32 cents, then you're probably not going to want to sell at this first price target. And then you would just take this and eliminate it. Just remove this target off of your list. Okay. So with that said, let's go in and see how these price targets would have performed in the market now had we been able to put these ahead of time. Okay, now notice on the exit plan, I have marked on here with the black stars our exit targets for each of the different Fibonacci levels, the 0.618, the 168, the 268, the 368, and the 468. Now, you can see when we did our analysis from swing high to swing low, these were the 5 points that it had given us. Now, we hadn't at the time known how this was going to perform, but we can clearly see here now that since the time we had plotted out this Fibonacci retracement, we see that the curve or the price point had gone all the way up to 80 cents. And what we noticed is if we had created an exit strategy, as we had shown, we would have sold a percentage of our coins at the first trigger point. We would have sold another set of our coins at the second trigger point, and we would have never hit our third, fourth, and fifth. But that's okay, because the point is we are now training ourselves and training our brains to take profits on the way up. And you can see in this event that what happened is, in fact, I'm sorry, the third target we would have also hit. You can see here right at the top of the wick. So we would have been able to take advantage of 3 different price targets. We would have exited. We would have not exited on these top 2. But what happens after this? We see that the price chart had dropped down and then continues all the way down, just like we showed the Wall Street chart showed, that you're on the back end of the curve. All the liquidity is gone, all the leverage is out of it, and you're seeing the price drop. There's nothing to bring it back up. And so the good news is you have taken profits at 3 different points on the way up, and you're going to feel very good when this thing goes down, and you've been able to pocket some profits, put those on the side, and then you can either reinvest them back in during a bear market, because this typically repeats over and over again, or you can reinvest them into something else. So this is really the importance of being able to create an exit plan. And once you've determined what those targets are, you take those targets, and let's go back to the exit plan. You can see here you take those targets, you put them into your spreadsheet, put in the percentage you're going to sell, and then based on the number of coins you have, it'll tell you, or you can calculate at each point how many coins you should be selling. And then it's up to you to monitor and track the markets and make sure that you're actually following along with that process and know when it's time to sell. So you can certainly do that on your own. One of the things we're happy to tell you here at Merlin is we have created a tool that's going to allow you to create and to enter all this information into the app. And when you do that, you will no longer have to worry about monitoring the market or updating your spreadsheets or keeping track of your spreadsheets. Merlin will do that for you. So let me show you an example of how that's going to work. Okay, so let's head on over to Merlin. And I've created a demo account here for the purposes of this training. So you'll be able to get a sense of what this looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down, and I've already added XLM to my account. So we're going to come in here and we're going to click on XLM, and we'll allow that load up. And here we can see we have the ability to set an exit strategy. So you're going to click to set the exit strategy button, and notice you'll see a tool here. And the first thing you'll notice at the top, it tells us our coin. We see how many actual coins we have. In this example, we have 75,000 coins. at an average price of 10 cents. Very important to know our average price because we don't want to pick targets. We want to make sure every target we pick is above our average price and not below it. So with that said, let's go ahead and determine now from an exit strategy perspective, how many coins we want to hold and how many we want to sell. In this example, I'm going to say that we're going to sell 70% of our coins and we're going to hold 30% for the future. Okay. And Merlin already is telling us it pre-populates that for us. And Merlin is also telling us that we now need to disperse the 70% across the different targets. So we need to spread out 100% of the 70%. Okay. And it's going to tell us along the way how much coins we have remaining. Now, remember when we did our exit strategy, we came up with 5 targets. You'll notice Merlin will always default to 3, but no problem. If you want to add another one, just click add target or click one more. And now we've got 5 targets added. If you ever want to remove them, you can just click on here and delete and remove a target. Okay, so what we're going to do is now this is where we want to go to our spreadsheet, remember? And we said we were going to sell 10% at 22 cents, 30 at 54, so on and so forth. We're going to now take these numbers and plug them into Merlin. Okay, so as we can see now, we have added in our exit targets and our coin percentages that we want to sell at based on the Fibonacci levels that we saw from our charting. So once we enter those into Merlin here, we're going to come down here and we're going to click save. And you will notice a couple of things. Merlin is going to show you at each price point what your total sale is going to be. Down at the bottom here, you'll see what the total proceeds will be from if all your exit targets are reached. And because it knows your cost, it can also tell you what the actual profit would be based on this sell. So if we're making $44,000 and we know that we've average price is 10 cents, we know then that minus the cost of it, our total profit is $39,000. And because we've told Merlin what our exit bracket is, or our tax bracket is 22%, we can see here that if we're going to have a gain of $39,000, we're going to have to pay 22% taxes on that. And that 22% is going to result in about an $8,600 tax liability. And the nice thing is you now know how much you need to set aside. And we'll talk later about where you can potentially invest that into IULs or other things temporarily to earn you some interest before you give that over to Uncle Sam. So that said, we click save. And we're going to exit out of this. And we'll see here now that our exit strategy will now appear under our assets page in Merlin under XLM. So on the XLM page, we can come here and we see now that it shows us what exit strategy we selected. It shows us the a number of coins that we're going to hold, the number of coins we're going to total. So it shows the coins we're going to sell and the coins we're going to hold. And then we can see at each price target how many coins we actually have to sell. So we don't even need to do the math. And what's great is Merlin is going to actually send you 2 text alerts. It's going to send you one, a pre-alert when you get within 5 or 10% of your targets. And we do that because the price targets can move so fast. We want to make sure you're getting notification quickly. And then second, you'll get it when it actually hits your target again. And that's when, if you haven't already moved over to go sell, Merlin does not sell for you. Merlin just sends you alerts. You have to do the selling. You'll be able to see here also your profits. So you'll know how many coins to sell, what your actual sell is, what your actual profit is. And down here is your total profit and your total tax liability. So with that said, I'm going to show you alerts can be set up in the notifications page. You just click on profile and notifications. Okay. And we will always have as default exit target to be reached. Text me the alert. So you will always receive a text alert automatically unless you uncheck this box. That will come as default. Now, I also like to click this box that says close to an alert. This will tell me when I'm within 5 or 10% of the target. It will tell you it will send you an early pre-alert as well ahead of time. Okay, so you're going to want to check that and then click update. You also can turn on email alerts, any one of these alerts here as well. I will caution you that sometimes you could end up with quite a bit of alerts if you have a lot of coins. So I would be selective in what you choose here, but you can turn on email alerts if you don't want text alerts, or you can have them both on at the same time. So with that said, now let's go take a look here and see. You'll notice that because we have also a notification section here in Merlin, always look at the bell up top. If you see a red dot, that means you have a message. And you'll notice here, we actually hit one of our first targets. So I did lower the target, in an example, to 8 cents, since I know we're already higher than that price. And you'll notice Merlin is telling me, congratulations, your XLM has reached your first exit target of 8 cents. And it's telling me how many coins to sell. This will come as a text alert and an email, as well as right here in our notifications section. So you can be ready to go and know when to sell and how much you have to sell. Okay, now that our target has been reached, we're going to want to click View Exit Strategy. And you're going to want to come in here in Merlin and click on our first target. Click on the hamburger menu here. And this is going to allow us to mark sold. And we're going to click Mark Sold. And notice now it shows a check mark, and we no longer have the ability to edit it because it is now sold. We're going to click Save. And we're going to click Exit. And if we scroll down in our window, notice now that our first price target is no longer is more grayed out and has a check mark telling us we've achieved our first sell point. So that is how you know that you've locked that target in, and now we're waiting for the next 2, 3, or 4 other targets to go. So with that said, I hope this gives you a good understanding of how Merlin can help assist you so you don't have to do it yourself. Just head over to merlincrypto.com. You'll have a free 30-day trial to get the benefits, to be able to see exactly how it all works, to see if it works for you, and put yourself in a position to be able to capitalize when the markets begin to take off. So with that said, I hope this was helpful. My name is Johnny Crypto with a K, and I want to wish you all a great day.